So what we're looking at here is our way to navigate IMSLP.org up here. So you want to make sure that you have that. This is the International Music Score Library Project. And this is kind of like a Wikipedia for music composers, more classical and kind of stuff. But what we're looking at is, but what we're looking to do is figure out how to navigate, because if we look here, it has 156,000 works, over 507,000 scores, 18,500 plus composers. So there's a lot of stuff to sift through, and if I were to search even just for, arbitrarily, just for, say, Ludwig van Beethoven, we would get 7,700 results just from this one website. So there's a lot to sift through, and we want to make sure it is as seamless as possible. So what we're actually going to go to is our second tab over here on the top left side, where it says scores. We're going to go down to instrumentation/genre, and under that, it'll give us a new window, a new page. We are going to go to instrumentation again. From there, it's going to do something funny here. There we go. So we've got a couple different options here. We want orchestral. We are going to click that, and it's going to give us a drop-down menu. We want what we are. We are strings, which is string orchestra and strings, whatever they decide to call it. So what this does now is this has reduced our list of orchestral pieces from a couple thousand to 668. The other thing that we can do is we can also sort it out to be pieces that are arranged for string orchestra. So this list of 668 that it has given us is for original compositions for string orchestra and arrangements for string orchestra. If we wanted just arrangements, we could click on that note right there. Sorry. And I always right click to give us a new tab, so that way I don't have to worry about losing that. But what this has now done is it gives us 936 pieces total. Oh, so this first page was only original compositions. So there are more arranged pieces than there are original compositions. But I'm going to use our first page here for our originals as an example for us. So knowing a few of these pieces offhand, I'm just going to click on one down here. That's the Ares de Yucatan. So when we click on that, we still have a hyperlinked thing up here. Our name in parentheses is our composer, last name, first name. This is Jeff Manoukian. He is a contemporary composer who lives in Chile, I believe, down in South America. But what we see here on our page, our first section is recordings. There are 2 recordings of this particular piece that we could listen to, and we could listen to those, and it'll tell you the time. If you're going to download it, it tells you the file size. These recordings are large files, as we can see, 45 and 44 megabytes. But if we just click it here from play, it will just stream it, so we don't have to worry about downloading such a large file size. It'll also tell you the ensemble and potentially who the conductor was. So Mr. Manoukian was the conductor for both, but the first one is from Merida Chamber Orchestra, and the second one was from the Tucumán Orchestra in Argentina. So we have one from Mexico and one from Argentina here. So that's a nice difference. But then as we scroll down, our next subcategory is sheet music. From there, we can see the complete score if we wanted to. I'm going to open that in a separate tab. We can see the complete parts. That's not necessarily how it's set up for every single piece, but it is for this one. So, sorry, let me actually go back here real quick. Maybe not. So, same thing on this page though, is that this is kind of the legal disclaimer. We'll talk about that a little more in depth as we go a little further into the project. For right now, we don't need to worry about it. But also knowing that Jeff Manukian's works are covered under Creative Commons 4.0, which means they are public domain for us to at least peruse visually. So as soon as the score finishes loading, we'll see what that looks like, and then I will also load out the parts. But that is one way we can look at here, and this is for the original, so we're looking at the score and parts tab here. The other thing there's also a possibility of is arrangements and transcriptions. So if we look at it under arrangements and transcriptions, it's the same thing, but it's for string quartet. So it's going to be very similar. It just has removed a bass. Instead of having the cello and bass playing low end stuff, he has orchestrated some of it to include bass parts, probably in the cello part. So that may not be necessarily what we're looking for. But here we are. Here's our score for the Ares de Yucatan, and it is 6 movements long for string orchestra, and it's a full PDF that we can scroll through. You can even jump to specific pages, typing in the top if you want, whatever it may be, quick scrolling, however you may want. And it's just, this is what I would look at typically, and we'll talk about that a little more later. The other thing that may be easier for us to navigate would be looking at parts individually. And let's see what this looks like for us. So actually, while we're waiting for that to load, here's our other one. These are all of our arrangements for string orchestra, similar to the full list that we saw earlier. I'm going to go ahead and just click on the Ver kleine Stück by Bela Bartok. So what this shows us is we have 2 different recordings that are at least Creative Commons. We can listen to those, we can stream them if we wanted to. But there are also commercial recordings, which are recordings that are available for purchase. So now if we look here, we see, actually if we scroll back up to the top, we see the original is for piano, and it's scores featuring the piano. So these here that are listed are all piano versions, and we don't necessarily want that because that's not going to work well for us. So what we'll do is we'll click on arrangements and transcriptions, and we can see here we have an arrangement for strings. Here is woodwind quintet, quintet for woodwinds, quintet, and that is it. So the only one that would work out for us is the strings orchestra. Sorry. So it shows us violin 1, and then it says show more. So we've got our other options here. So we could click here and drop down the full menu of string parts, and each one of these would lead us to a new tab for PDF for this particular piece. One thing for you all to note, we see down here, is that it is copyright information as public domain, but it is not public domain in the European Union, which means it is totally legal for us to access this for performance purposes here in the United States. And what some of the pages will do is, instead of showing you that other page we looked at, is it'll give you a 15-second countdown window before it'll show us the page. And here we have our first violin part loading as well. But the big takeaway from this for IMSLP is that some pages will display one way, some pages will display another way. And sometimes it can get a little confusing. You can also, though, you can search by composers, nationalities, time periods. There's a lot of cool things you can do here, and I'm going to dive into some more of that here a little further down the road. But this should give you a good start, and we'll see how things go.